Hey guys, this is Shakochu, and because I haven't done another episode of The Voltage in quite a while, and because we're so close to Halloween, I thought I might do the next episode on a spooky game or something like that. Now, those of you who have been paying any attention to my videos lately can tell that I've recently taken a liking to the Mother series, as well as RPGs in general. It's because of this that I wanted to cover a game that sort of fell under both RPG and Halloween themed. And it was for this reason that screw it. I won't beat around the bush any longer because you could probably already tell by the title of the video where this is going. I'm going to be going over the not recent, Halloween hack for Earthbound made by Toby Fox. So with that said, let's get going. Now, before I talk about anything pertaining to this hack, and as well as its gameplay, let me just say that of all the works Toby Fox has done, this one is probably the one he's the least proud of. And I'm not just pulling that out of the thin air here. There have been actual posts Toby Fox himself made on Twitter saying things like he should probably accept bad ROM hack with swears as part of his eternal legacy, and that Undertale was the first game he made that wasn't a bad ROM hack or a joke RPG game. And well, by bad ROM hack, I can only assume that he's referring to this one in particular, because I don't think he's made any other ROM hacks. Not to my knowledge, at least. I mean, it's understandable. We all do things at young ages that we're not proud of later in our lives. And I would draw parallels between that and most of my early videos, but we don't speak of those, do we? But anyways, I just wanted to tell you this because I want you to keep in mind throughout this entire video that Toby Fox himself is ashamed of what you're about to see. Okay, so right off the bat, we're already getting greeted by a blood-red title screen, and so far, so good. I wonder if Toby did anything with the opening credits sequence. Well, okay. It's probably best if we ignore that, so let's move on. So once we start a new save file, we have to name what the game tells us is a bounty hunter, along with Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. It's also worth noting that Toby also changed the don't care names for these characters, and cycling through them for some reason made me laugh a little bit, even though it probably shouldn't have. Also, just like normal, the game asks you the name of your dog, favorite thing, and favorite food. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you can go ahead and name these things whatever you want, because they never appear later in the hack. Ever. I'm serious. But now that we've named our characters, let's get going. Okay, so far it seems that this hack takes place after the events of Earthbound, hence the 4 months after Gyga's fall in the opening cinematic. We're also greeted by a remix of both the Tucson theme and the Mother 3 Love theme. And apparently, we're playing as the bounty hunter from earlier who's passed out drunk in the Chaos Theater in Tucson. A little out of place for a game like Earthbound, but okay. Speaking of which, while the whole bounty hunter character in itself seems kind of out of place for Earthbound as well, I will admit that the sprite work for the character itself actually looks really good, despite not having any diagonal sprites like the originals did. Okay, checking my inventory here, and it looks like we start out with a silent dagger and some armor. Pretty much what you'd expect from such an out-of-place character. Once we head to the next room over, we find B.H. Perkle, former mayor of Gwinnett, as he informs us about a mysterious killing of a girl's parents by some sort of demonic gelatinous monster, and that the authorities have concluded that the monster came from Winters. He also gives us the job of tracking down and killing the monster, because we're playing as the bounty hunter, remember? As well as the key to the sewers, because apparently the sewers are the quickest way to Winters. And thus our adventure begins. Now, while the actual layout of Tucson was left unchanged, pretty much all of the dialogue was given a complete overhaul. Some of it is pretty silly and fitting with the humor of Earthbound, but a majority of it is kind of weird and out there. Just to show you what I mean, let me show you this guy and show you what he has to say. That made me laugh a little bit. I don't know why, it just did. Actually, come to think of it, there are just a few things in the dialogue that sort of make me laugh, just for no reason at all. Well, okay, I guess there's nothing else left to do here, so let's head right into the sewers. Okay, so far so good, and good lord, these enemies do too much freaking damage. Oh my god, these enemies are strong. Why are they this overpowered? Okay, do any of you remember the hint-giving guy from the original Earthbound? Well, you can still find him in his normal spot in Tucson, but guess what he says to you this time around? You're a pro at this game already? What do you mean by that? How can someone be pro at a game that is mostly based around luck? Smash hits are luck-based, the stats you gain during level-ups are luck-based, outcomes of PSI techniques are luck-based, enemies dodging your attacks are not as luck-based, whether your opponent wastes a turn or not is luck-based. All of it's luck-based. All of it. Well, not all of it. Now, I'm not saying Earthbound is a bad game by saying most of its mechanics are luck-based, don't get me wrong. Earthbound's one of my most favorite games of all time. I'm just saying that you shouldn't expect that high of a skill ceiling in a game with this many RNG-involved mechanics. Well, at this point I started to wander around Tucson some more, only to find that there are enemies in the overworld that are still kind of overpowered, but not nearly as much as the ones in the sewers. As long as you don't encounter too many at once, you should be okay. Anyways, we haven't tried going to 1-et yet, so let's go over and see how things are doing over there. Oh, what's this enemy? It's none other than the Super Doom Shroom. Look at the damage on that attack. Look at the damage. Well, okay, we're obviously not going that way. Back into the sewers we go, then. Alright, after struggling with a few more enemies, we eventually reached the end of the Tucson sewers, and oh god, what happened to this place? What happened to the enemies? What happened to everything? Well, okay, the spookiness factor actually wears off once you realize that the only real threat is the over-recycled enemies. Every other enemy is just... the preemptive scavengers die in one hit if you're strong enough, and the evil ectos have only one attack that does anything. The over-recycled enemies, however, you want to watch out for. They have a lot of health, hit hard, and I swear to god they dodge your attacks more often. I'm not even joking, look at this. Also, remember when I said the sprite work in this hack was good for the most part? Well, I was talking about the little sprite work in this hack that's original. Most of it is just recolors of already existing enemies. I mean, wow, look at that, it's a recolor of the filthy attack roach. I bet that took a really long time to make. But all that aside, once we manage to escape the sewers, we get to a place that looks like Winters? I don't know, if there was a town in Earthbound themed after autumn, I think this would be what it looks like. Just slightly less unsettling. Right as I got to this point of the game, I sort of wondered, where's the Tessie watching group, boarding school, and store that are all usually here? Well, as it turns out, they're all gone. I mean, they're literally just not there. What isn't missing, however, is the couple in the tent from the original game. And they still give you tea to fully revitalize you, which is cool. By the way, did I mention that the enemies in this area are incredibly strong? I mean, look at that. I just barely survived that fight. But after a lot of close calls, we eventually make it to Dr. Andonut's lab, right where it normally is. So once we enter the lab, we're greeted with absolutely no music, as well as Dr. Andonut's in the same place he's normally found. but by talking to him we get an unlikely explanation for why Winters looks the way it does now. As he tells us, this hack takes place in an alternate timeline of Earthbound where the souls of Ness, Paul, Jeff, and Pooh returning to their bodies like normal never happened, and they never come back from the past at all. You know what? I think that's a actually pretty interesting concept for the story. I like the whole what-if scenario this hack presents. After all, Dr. Randonuts did say in the original game that the protagonists may not come back after their fight in the past. But anyways, I thought it was kinda cool. Also remember the monster B.H. Perkle told us about before? Well, that monster just so happens to be one that Dr. Randonuts created. Apparently he made it because after Ness, Paul, Jeff, and Pooh disappeared, he went mad with guilt and made all of the monsters we fought up to this point and set them loose. The monster that Perkle described, however, was none other than Magicant. Yes, the entirety of Magicant. Dr. Randonuts' Magicant, to be precise. For those of you that don't know much about the lore of Earthbound, Magicant is supposed to be a metaphysical place that's shaped and molded by what usually goes on in your mind. That being said, since Dr. Randonuts went insane with guilt like I said earlier, I could only imagine what his Magicant might look like. Suffice to say, it wouldn't probably be pretty to look at. But anyways, we find the machine that holds Magicant, and our choices now are either kill it or some blank option. If you choose the blank option, it just puts you right back at the same choice again, so I guess our only option is to kill it. I guess. Wait, that was the end? I could have sworn this hack ended a lot differently. Well, from what I've heard of, online at least. Okay, anyways, I found out what you're supposed to do is to exit out of the dialogue box when given the choice of killing it. Okay, now that's pretty clever, and I like that. But what I don't like about that, however, is the fact that if you choose to kill him, unless you made a save state in the lab, you're gonna have to go through the entire Winters portion and listen to Dr. Randonuts' incoherent ramblings all over again. That's not cool. And I know some of you may be thinking, what about saving using the phone on his desk and reloading your game? Well, I applaud your efforts trying to prove someone wrong on the internet, but all I have to say about that is that the phone doesn't work. If you pick it up, all it will do is just ring at you, not letting you save. So that won't work. Oh man, if Magicant is a representation of what someone's mind looks like, then I'm actually kind of scared to see what an insane person's mind might look like. Well, okay. It's just the same as the Magicant in the original game. Well, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to feel relieved or disappointed. Well, here we are in Magicant. Hey, this is where Flowey was first used, wasn't it?
No, it's not.
This actually isn't where Flowey made his debut, because these flowers were also in the original game. So while they may look and talk like Flowey in this hack, all they really are just a sign of 16-year-old Toby being lazy. They weren't related to Flowey in any way other than looking alike. But anyways, let's get that out of the way and see what else there is to see. Well, there's a shop that's in its usual spot, and this time around it sells a lot more than magic pudding and earth pendants. Now it sells a whole bunch of new items that aren't just reskins of already existing items. There's the Cocoon Pizza, which heals every one of your party members at once, the Sky Nectar, which heals quite a bit of HP when eaten. Don't buy this one, by the way. You'll be able to get a ton of them for free just ahead. And there's also the Power and Psycho Spirits, spelled with a P, which are basically Shield Omega and PSI Shield Omega in item form. These spirits are actually really useful. Not only do you want to conserve as much power points as possible in this hack, but you can give it to Jeff later on to maximize its effectiveness, since he's the only one in your party that isn't psychic. Alright, so moving on from that, the talking clock from the original game is still here, but this time he only says Adventure Time? Now, this caused me to raise an eyebrow, because both Adventure and Time are capitalized, and because of that I could only assume that this was referring to the show by the same name. However, this hack was made in 2008, and Adventure Time didn't make its debut until late 2009. And maybe I got those dates mixed up, but if I didn't, then man, time travel much?